Welcome, everybody. It is me. It is the Cyber Warrior. This is Cyber Warrior Studios. And I know you are all here for another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour. That's right. I got another big show planned for you. And we got a lot to talk about because that's just how we do around here. And I promise, if you give me about 10 seconds, as always, I'll be right back. Told y'all, 10 seconds. That's all it takes. With me this evening, I have the one and only Bill Daniel. Bill has an amazing story, kind of a crazy story, about how he got into cyber and where he came from. So first and foremost, Bill, thank you for joining me this evening and coming on the show.
Appreciate you having me, Derek. Skull.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the first question that, I asked everybody, and really this is your story, your show today. Why don't you kind of give people a rundown on how you got into cybersecurity?
All right. So I guess the big thing, because people are going to want to know my initial background with transitioning from produce on over. Working at a grocery store was my first job out of high school. My dad gave me an ultimatum. I don't know if he'll watch this, but I dropped out of college and he told me, you're either going into the military or you're going to get yourself a full-time job. So I took about a couple months looking around, playing the field, got a job working in a grocery store. From there, worked my way on up, night shift lead, daytime manager, branched out from there, switched to a different chain, got assistant manager position there. Then I met my wife. And I realized that type of schedule, working weekends, sacrificing every major event, or just happenings of life, wasn't what I wanted going forward into marriage, especially if I wanted a healthy one. So I got a sales job. That sales job, and I could speak to the company because it's public knowledge now, actually got ransomwared not once, twice in 1 year by the same group of people. And you guys can look it up. It's a company called Pitney Bowes, based in Connecticut. They sell mail meters. I was there as a salesperson and saw how it affected their bottom line and their processes from the top down. And it was not fun. We couldn't sell as salespeople. Upper management's running around like chickens with their head cut off. You name it, just complete and utter communication breakdown, trying to figure out what to do. At that rate, I saw, especially with the direction the world was going in at the time, I want to do something related to cyber. My love for computers as it is, it's just a perfect pairing. Fast forward, I started taking a boot camp course that my wife had actually found online, by the name of Full Stack Academy. If you guys are familiar with it, you might see advertisements for it. At the time, I was on the cutting edge of their cyber program. I think they're primarily known as like software dev boot camp. So I was right on the cutting edge of them with their curriculum for cyber. Got in on the ground floor, learned from some great people, to be honest, and got enough knowledge to get my Security Plus. After a couple months, one of my friends that I befriended from the bootcamp program got a job, got me the opportunity to talk to his boss, and I was vetting them as much as they were vetting me for about 6 months, and they came to me with an offer, and that's how I got my first role.
See, I've heard good and bad about boot camps. I've been in a few myself. Now, granted, the ones I went through for the most part were when I was in the military. So I wasn't really overly concerned getting out and things of that nature because of that. Because, I mean, going in through the military, I wasn't like, oh, I need to make sure this gets me a job after. It was just, I'm going to go through and make sure I have the knowledge to get the certifications type of deal. So I think the fact that you were able to come out of it, make those connections, and get a job after the fact lends to not only the knowledge gained within there, but your ability to network and communicate and really push yourself to get that first job.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'll be upfront. I'm not sure exact. I'm sure your audience is not only people who are in the industry now, but are people trying to break in. I will be completely honest with you. 80% of my cohort for that boot camp program was ex-military, utilizing their GI Bill to get in there and get the skills that they wanted. For the people that didn't, who were either having their company pay for them, very few people, and I'm among them, paid out of their own pocket. I took out a loan. That's subjective. Obviously, I'm still paying for it. Boot camps aren't cheap. Um, but that added a certain element to me having to thrive, find my footing, network, befriend people, be in charge of study groups, ask the questions that other people would be too afraid to ask while I'm in there to try to glean this knowledge because I'm paying for it. I have everything to lose.
Right.
Boot camp situation. You know what I mean? It's not for the faint of heart in that regard. I needed to pony up the money up front. Um, so yeah, it was kind of weird in that regard, but I definitely took the lead, and I could see in hindsight that a lot of my peers leaned on me in that regard, knowing, oh, Bill's running a study group. Let's get on afterwards. We got an exam coming,
Yeah.
or let's get a security plus group going, etc. And it helped not only me but a few other people as well that landed their roles.
Yeah, and I think, well, and really what happens, and I think we're seeing this even to this day, right? When you're younger and you take out loans to go to school or what have you, you're not always going for something that is going to pay for that loan, right? When you have to take out a loan for a boot camp, it's not as expensive as college, but it's still pricey. You're still looking at 10, 15, sometimes 20 grand, depending on the boot camp and how long it is. And it's
Yeah.
a fire hydrant. It's a fire hose of information. It's literally just coming nonstop. So you have to be able to think on your feet. You've got to be able to have the intelligence to learn quickly, right? And so when you are putting forth your own money, I think it does lend to that fact. And Jack says it here: when you're putting skin in the game right away, like you're betting on yourself, you're betting the house, and you're sitting there saying either I'm going to do it or everything's going to fall apart. And so I think it puts more drive and determination in you to make it work. When it's your own money paying for something and you're looking for an ROI on that, and you, as someone who's been in sales and understands the business aspect of things, that ROI is important. So if I'm going to dump 10, 15, 20 grand into something, I want that return on investment, which means you're going to vet the school, you're going to vet the education coming from it, and you're going to put forth your best foot to make sure you get every cent worth out of those courses. And I think that's what a lot of people miss is when it's like, again, coming from the military, GI Bill and kicker, right? So that's how I did my first 4 years of school, things of that nature. I didn't really have a lot invested in it. Like, yeah, I had student loans that the military paid off, most of them, and things like that. But I wasn't really vested. But again, 4 year school is just aren't for me. I finished, but I just wasn't a fan. I'm taking these classes; they're pointless. I really don't care about whatever. Um, so when you've got to put forth that money and you've got to invest in yourself, that's like anything else. If you want it, it takes money to make money, and you put that forward, and then you ran with it, and we're like, you know what? I'm gonna make something out of this. I'm gonna make it worth it.
I mean, at that rate, Derek, you got to, but you definitely hit the nail on the head as far as return investment, because when you pony up that money, this is even prior to sitting in on any initial class. There was no get a taste and see. This was, I vetted this school. I think it's going to be good for me, and I'm going to do everything I can to milk it for every cent of what I'm paying. Um, can that be said for a lot of my classmates? No, there's a lot of people who fell off. I think at the time there was 50 or so people, maybe a little less, who started day one, and by the end of the class, you were lucky if there was 25, 30 people that showed up. And of those 25, 30, how many of those people back in that cohort have broken into cyber and landed their first role since? There's people that haven't even gotten their security plus yet. You know, and that was the ultimatum that my first employer gave me. Was okay. You ponied up the money, you went to boot camp, you got that mile wide and inch deep knowledge of everything cyber related without having any background in help desk, laying cables, doing the IT stint, never mind anything in cyber. So it was pretty much theory and my own intuition, my ability to ask the hard questions and research on my own. And I hate school, by the way. It's
I
not
think
my
most
thing.
of us do. We prefer to
Yeah,
just learn it on the fly.
but it's more than just preparing for a test dump. You can go and look up videos of people trying to help you get your CISSP, your Security Plus, your project management certification. If you're just taking that information and you're not actively applying it in the field or in your own time, you're just getting that piece of paper and you're what the industry calls a paper tiger.
Hmm?
You got all this paper saying you can do this, but you're not actively applying it. That knowledge is slowly going to diminish and leave you.
Even without that, though, I think, and so the government really screwed things up by mandating certifications for certain positions.
Mm-hmm.
And then the job market is doing it, right? In my eyes, certification should not be a requirement. By making it a requirement, that's how you have these paper tigers, these people out there getting certifications just to put letters after their name and get through the ATS systems, but they don't have the knowledge to back it up. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, and there are certain certifications out there that force you to actually know and understand what you're doing. But at the end of the day, when you're going to sit there and say, oh, in order to work as a level 1 analyst, you need to have a security plus. Like it's mandatory. You have to have this. What are people going to do? They're going to go out there. They're going to do whatever they can to get that security plus. They're going to take the test, go in. And then they get mad when they don't get the job because now someone's vetting that knowledge. And they're like, well, I can't answer this. And the government really screwed it up when they were like, oh, 8170, I think it was. You got to have a security plus to work help desk. You want to know what so many people in the different units did? They took the freaking practice tests that they got from the boot camps that the government hired to bring in that just taught you the tests. And then if you memorized all the answers to the practice test, you memorized all the answers on the real test. So then you had no knowledge.
Those tests, and I mean, depending on what your background is, if you're already coming from a tech background, you will be able to speak to some of the things on the Security Plus, as well as any other standardized CompTIA or ISC squared test. But half the battle, and I will debate this till the end, half the battle is understanding what these companies, like how they word questions, how they try to, have you fall in the pit holes of thinking. But for the multiple choice, once you crack that code of being able to view things how these people who are writing the questions view them, you've unlocked the keys to half the exam.
Oh yeah, it really comes down to there's going to be one that's really wrong. There's going to be one that's looks wrong, but you're going to second guess it. Then you're going to have that one that looks right, but it's wrong, and then you're going to have the right answer.
Yep.
That's a lot of them. Now, there are some where there's certain vendor certifications where they all look right, and they're just changing because it's based on syntax. They might change a word or a character or add a comma where it doesn't belong, something stupid like that. Then that's a little bit more difficult, and then you really have to read and understand and know what you're doing. But at the end of the day, like when I look at some of these base level certifications, and I've seen it happen in the military, when you tell me you have a security plus, and I sit there and say, cool, what is port 443? And you cannot give me an answer. You don't deserve that certification. I'm sorry. you might as well shred it and never look at it again because it means nothing to you.
Now take that as base knowledge, but again, there's many different domains that the Security Plus covers, and not any particular one of them are weighed as equally as others. There's some that are, 7, 8 different domains for that test, and you get 60% here, 20% there, etc. It's not equally valued the way they proctor
Which
it.
is why I think foundations are important. So you breaking in, one of the best ways you brought, and you explained it earlier, mile wide, inch deep. It was all about that foundational knowledge. That is how you break into this industry from a ground level, is have that foundational knowledge. Meaning, you should understand what a firewall is. You don't know how to. You don't need to know how to configure it. You don't need to know all the commands, but just know what it is and potentially what layer it sits on of the OSI model. Know what a router is. Know what an operating system is. Know a few different distributions of operating systems. So your Unix and Linux and the different. Give me Ubuntu and Arch. Just have a variety of knowledge at the different areas, but have it be foundational. And that's all you need to really break in, is that foundational understanding. Because then when you have that certification, whether it be an A plus, a net plus, a security plus, you have that baseline understanding because you've actually attempted to learn it. You've actually used intelligence to actually learn it. But people just want to memorize questions and answers.
Exactly. And I wanted to get one of the people in the audience, Cyber Dancer Danny,
Danny.
said that she had actually failed it the first time around 5 years ago. To be honest with you, I had actually failed my first attempt too by a hair. I don't know how the questions were weighed, but I just missed that threshold of passing. And this was at the time where I was vetting my previous employer and they were equally vetting me. And the ultimatum was, as soon as you get your Sec Plus, come back to me. I needed to go because I was following up, I think, weekly or bi-weekly at that point with my previous boss. And I needed to tell him, dude, I just missed it, and own up to it. And I mean, he had vetted other employees in the past that just fell off. They can't own up to it. Owning up to that failure, I doubled down, bet on myself again, got the test scheduled for the next available date, took it, knocked it out.
Yeah.
You're never going to get the same test twice. That's part of the problem. They're not going to be able to standardize this test to where it's such a knowledge check mark or baseline. The only thing that they can do to screw you over is jumble up the questions and reword them differently.
And that's all it is. Because you can only ask for the same information in so many different ways. So if I'm going to sit here, and so Danny said, what's the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? So one's using SSL TLS encryption. The other one is not. It's clear text. One's port 80 or 8080, depending. Really, you can put any web server on any port. It's just general knowledge. It's port 80 and port 443. But again, it can go anywhere. You can put anything on any port. These are just the commonly used ones. And so when you look at these things, it's like, all right, what's port 443? Oh, it's HTTPS. Okay, what is HTTPS? Or what port does HTTPS sit on? Or something along those lines. Basically everything about just that one protocol and reworded a million different ways.
I mean, yeah, they could literally write it backwards, but it's still going to be the same answer. So
let's see.
That's how they get you.
Passed my Sec Plus first try, but I think the secret for me was to understand what I was doing rather than memorize questions. But again, it wasn't above 800 my score. But again, that's the biggest thing, right? Is you don't memorize questions. You understand the fundamental knowledge that goes into it, because then it doesn't matter how they ask a question. It doesn't matter what question they ask. When you have the fundamental understanding of the topics at hand and you actually know it, then it doesn't matter what they ask. They could ask the most absurd questions known to man, but you can sit there and just parse out the information that's important for the question and answer it.
That's
because
why
you
I
actually
find it
understand it.
hilarious. Everybody takes pictures of their Sec Plus, but they block out the score, and it's like it doesn't matter if you scored 1,000 or you got the 700 or 750 it requires. You're in the same league with the person that got 700, 750,
What do you
even if
call
you
a
got 1,000.
doctor that gets all C's? A doctor.
Still a doctor. Same thing with a lawyer. it's it's the same
Doesn't
thing.
matter.
Exactly. Especially when you're on the ground floor breaking in. I hate to make the pun. It's like apples and oranges. You know, when you're on the entry level breaking in, you're on a level playing field with everybody else breaking in.
Yep.
It's all how you present yourself.
Well, and this is where sales really come into it, right? You got to be. This is why I want people on this show. One of the reasons, and why I tell people to network, because confidence is key.
Oh yeah.
Right. If you go to an interview and you have so much anxiety about the interview, there are going to be questions that you're going to get off that call. You're like, man, I knew all those, and I did. Son of a bitch. When in reality, it's just you not having the confidence in yourself because you're so anxious about these questions. Where when you have that confidence in what you know and in who you are and how you present yourself, then they can ask you anything. And you're going to give them one of two answers, either the right answer or I don't know. I haven't learned that yet.
Yeah.
Potentially a third answer of I know how to find that answer. I just don't know it. One of those three. But that all comes from confidence. I can sit there and this goes back to like how I talk about investing in yourself and you were going through and learning, not only during the course, but I'm sure you put hours in after and just trying to break in. You're like, I really want to know this. So I'm going to take time away to go study it and figure it out. And I've told this story before. Prior to me getting into cybersecurity in the Army, I was working on cybersecurity. I was taking an hour, 2 hours every single night to work on Linux and Kali and, break into computers and crack Windows passwords and do hack the box and just everything else to advance my knowledge, to actually learn the material, to know what I got to do to get into the career field that I want. And so then when I went to some of the hardest courses out there, which are SANS, let's be honest, they have some of the hardest tests and hardest courses. That's why they cost so much money, that and the amount they pay their instructors. I sat these tests and got over 90% on every one. No, I don't say that to brag about getting 90%. I say that to say when I went through the courses, I knew 90% of the information because I had been studying it before I ever went to the course.
Yeah.
And so when people would ask me, well, how do you know all this? Because when you go home and you're cooking dinner or, eating dinner and watching TV and doing this at the third, and then the kids go to bed and you watch more TV and then you watch more TV and then you get on social media and then you go to sleep. I say, you know what? I got to take at least an hour or two before I go to sleep to work on it. And I remember going for my CPT, and my wife used to yell at me all the time because from the time I got off work to the time I passed out, I was working on that certification trying to get it done.
It's what you got to do. That's the only way to do it.
I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make it work. I'm going to get this. Eventually, I got it. But again, it took days of being up nonstop to figure it out. But I wanted to invest in myself.
And employers, I know that we're ragging on certifications a lot just because.
It's not the certifications I rag on. It's the people that don't learn. They just
that don't retain the actual information that pertains to the certification itself. But in that light, the certifications, you have to apply the knowledge that pertains to the certification. So your Network Plus, you got to actively not just study for the exam, you got to know about networking. Same thing with Security Plus. Having a security mindset isn't something that you're born with. Some might be a little more keen to it than others, but that's something that you constantly have to hone by reading articles, keeping up to what the latest threats are, etc. And to be honest with you, again, going back to the mile wide and inch deep knowledge pool and content of these exams and even the boot camps, everyone's going to have a niche. Everyone's going to have something that appeals to them in cyber as opposed to another facet of it. For me, my first job, after breaking in, my company wanted me to help them write an system security plan from top to bottom,
Mm.
then apply that with implementing certain controls, usually NIST standards, and then wrap that up in a nice package to make it presentable for a CMMC assessment. That was my niche. That was my first role. It was told to me in boot camp, oh, you don't want to do GRC too much because you're just going to be inundated with paperwork. I genuinely liked the idea of taking these standards and frameworks and being able to build something and paint a picture off of it
Right.
to help an organization posture. Some people get stuck into a SOC analyst role. There's nothing wrong with that. The meat grinder of answering tickets does not appeal to me. And there's not a way for
You don't want
me.
to watch logs all day and alerts? Come on, Bill.
I don't know how people do it, man. One of my friends from boot camp, that was his first job in, and God bless him, he's still at the company that he got straight out of boot camp, but I don't know how he does it. You know, God
Dude,
bless him.
I don't know. I don't know. I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, after me, that was kind of like what my boot camp told me right off the bat was like, oh, it's easy to get like a SOC position and pass your Security Plus when you get out. That was kind of like their claim to fame at the time, and you know what they were pressing on everybody. It was like, oh yeah, you'll be ready for like a SOC position, and we're going to teach you everything you need to know in order to pass your Security Plus. Me, I had the exact opposite. My organization was like, look, we're going to give this to you. You're going to take the ball, run with it as far as you can with little to no direction. And I can safely say that with the work that I put in, because I was so thorough with researching NIST standards and reading those pages, that I was able to take them right to the doorstep of, getting certified in CMMC. They just needed to pay for their assessor, which is a whole different story.
I just do Control F. When someone's like, hey, I need to get NIST certified. What do I need to do for my firewalls? And I'm like, Control F firewalls. Because to read all of that, like I've tried to read the entire standard. I've tried to read CMMC. Look, just give me the TLDR. Just tell me what. Just tell me. I mean,
they're there for reference.
Points are.
They're there for reference, man. But it takes a certain kind of person to read through them and be thorough with them. Obviously, the company that I was working for was a startup based in DC. They were only about 3 years old at the time, with like less than 50 employees. So I was championing that CMMC initiative. Yeah. From the project managing aspect to it, which I'm not a certified project
So when
manager.
they threw that on you, and then we do got some questions that I want to go over, but when they threw that on you, because you were saying it was kind of like you were there and it was just kind of handed to you, what was your actual job at the time when they were basically looked at you and were like, well, you're going for security, here you go, can you do this for me?
So my official title, and this is another thing people find out, is that titles are interchangeable. They could call you the Queen of Sheba. Doesn't mean you're the Queen of Sheba. It could be anything else in between, because it's all relative. They're just trying to put a name to it. But my title was IT Security Analyst. About as vague as you could get. Which no problem with that. But when I got in, my buddy at the time, who I met through boot camp, helped me get the job. Shout out to Jaron. He was actually trying to get on contract at the time. So he had started laying like the groundworks for CMMC, getting in touch with, a secure messaging platform so that CUI, or controlled unclassified information, could be transmitted. And then from there, after he did that, I got hired. He passed everything off to me and went on contract.
Hey, here you go, Bill. I'm out.
No, and it was literally from the pan into the fire. So I needed to research, okay, this is what I have in place so far. These are the things my company has. where's the best place to start? Am I going to go straight with policy? Am I going to build out an SSP? Or am I just going to try to curtail everything to CMMC standards? And you can't really have one of those things without the other. You got to remember, a lot of people that are doing this, you're already part of an established company that has a system security plan, has standard operating procedures, has infrastructure. I was sitting there writing essentially like the Bible for it. This is what you got to do. This is how you got to do it in order to get it done and get certified,
Yeah.
which gave me a really unique perspective, and I'm forever grateful for it because it was a really unique opportunity, especially to have as a first gig.
Yeah, building those programs from the ground up, it's always an interesting stance because a lot of times, to your point, we come into organizations that already have established procedures and practices and risk registers and things like that. So you're coming into something that's already there. It's a lot different when you're going to build it. And for me, that's why I've always loved being a consultant, because you help companies build their security programs, build their phone management programs. Take the processes they already have and actually refine them and make them better, things of that nature. So if anyone could ever help build a phone management program from the ground up, to include picking the software that you're going to use for scanning and how you're going to remediate vulnerabilities, what's important, what's not, and determining the criticalities, trust me, it is it's a mark on the wall or a notch in the belt that you will never forget and will guide you the rest of your career, because you learn so much by building the program versus coming into one already vested.
Definitely.
But on that note, got a few questions here. So Joseph, new to all this, he wants to know if you're willing to spill, how much was your boot camp and how long after or during did it take you to get a job?
Okay, very good question. Just because a lot of these boot camps don't tell you up front how much it's going to cost. As somebody that didn't have a GI Bill to lean on or any type of financial support, just taking out the loan on credit alone, it took about $15,000, give or take. And I got a 6-month deferred loan so that I didn't have to start paying it back immediately. I tried to give myself a little bit of a barrier to look for a job because the process is not easy, especially after boot camp, even if you have a certification. I kind of pitched it as, when I was applying to places, because I actually started applying to places prior to getting that boot camp certification or even my Sec Plus, saying Sec Plus in progress, projected October 2020, whatever. But roughly $15,000 for the boot camp on a deferred loan. So the interest rate on it is what's killing me right now.
Yeah, there's always going to be the interest rate, always.
That's what kills you.
Infinite Improbability AI, another one of my buddies, been on the show before. I also served with this man. Employers might send you to get trained in the CERT, but they will send you to a 1-week boot camp and expect you to have all elite level hacking skills by Monday. This is true too. Military does it, companies do it. They're like, go to this 1-week boot camp and then bring all that knowledge back here, and you better be able to break into NASA when you get back.
It's true, and it's stupid because there was 2 different options for my boot camp. There was a 6-month program where you went for X amount of hours a week, and then there was a 3-month program that there was absolutely no way you could freaking do it time-wise because you're supposed to be there 8 hours a day. Now, if you take into consideration all the extracurricular time afterwards that you'd want to spend in a study group, bouncing ideas off your fellow boot camp grads and whatnot, you're looking at probably 10 hours a day. It's impossible. So I did the deferred one. There was no expectations because an employer didn't pay for me, but there's only so much that they can expect for someone. Nobody that already has a skill set or a niche that they could lean into is really going to benefit by taking one of these boot camps.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's also how they prey on people who don't know how to take it one step further after boot camp.
Well, that's why I say the school YouTube is free. Now, there is a vast array and variety of information out there and people you can learn from. You look at people like InfoSec Pat, Simply Cyber, um, Keep It Techie. The list goes on of people that are doing things. Um, and really what it comes down to is just, to your point, finding your niche. What do you really want to learn? What do you want to invest in yourself? Because you can start and get the foundations and even go a little bit more in depth with people that are doing like Try Hack Me Online and putting the videos out there, or Retired Hack the Box boxes. I have some of those videos out there for Retired Hack the Box boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Say that 5 times fast. um, so I have some of those. I have security on videos and things like that. But you can use that as a foundation, as a baseline, and then, you know what? I really like the blue team. Let me go to BTL level 1, right? Let me go to securityblue.team and do their certification and their courses. And I'll bet that they're level 1. I was part of the advisory board for. So like, I know the questions they ask and how valid they are. So much stuff out there though. Like, you want to do offensive security, look, the Cyber Mentor, and why can't I think of his company now? PNT. Damn it. That's gonna bug me. Y'all know the Cyber Mentor. If you don't know the Cyber Mentor, look him up. He has his own courses and everything else like that are usually relatively cheap to get into pen testing and things of that nature. GRC, look, Gerald Auger is one of the best people you can learn from. Like, if you're looking for GRC knowledge, look up Gerald Auger's GRC course.
His podcast is,
oh yeah,
outside of this one, bar none.
Oh,
yeah. I leaned on him heavily. Couple channels that I could shout out on YouTube, just for those of you out there in chat who might be studying or working towards your Security Plus or even your CISSP. You write this down. Pete Zerger and his series of videos, as well as a gentleman called Professor Messer. Those two gentlemen
Professor
right
Messer,
there.
even Jason Dion.
Jason Dion as well, yeah. Those 3 guys. So Jason Dion, Professor Messer, and Pete Zerger. Perfect when you're preparing for a test and you don't want to go through the trouble of paying for a boot camp. A lot of this knowledge is free out there. Again, I'll circle back real quick as far as the boot camp goes for the gentleman that asked how much I paid. I paid for that boot camp, but I've seen people pay for boot camps just to be a test dump for Security Plus, $8,000 for 3 days, and they expect you to learn how to pass the Security Plus, which is, it's literally a test dump. You're paying $8,000 for.
Yeah, I've seen
it's it's crazy. It's crazy when the voucher itself through a Pearson VUE or whatever is only $100 or so. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
When you got videos on YouTube.
Right. All right. So D Crash wants to know. Now, I have an answer for this, and people aren't going to like it. I have an answer, but why are SANS training and certs still ridiculously expensive? I know why. But do you have any inkling, Bill?
I know that I'm not so keen on SANS because I'm not quite at that level yet, but I've been looking into ISC squared certifications as of late, and I know that you have to pay a membership fee. So there's kind of like a barred entry there.
Yeah.
I can imagine that that's part of it.
A little bit of that. Also, they're meant for companies to pay for. Because it's $10,000, $11,000 for one course, and it's a 1-week boot camp. And it ain't even a full week. It's like 3 or 4 days, sometimes 5 or 6, depending on which course you're taking. But it is because it is not meant for an individual to pay for. It's meant for companies to invest in. And these instructors aren't your run-of-the-mill instructors that are no longer working in the industry. They have full-time jobs. They have to have something. They have to continue to be learning and growing so that they can provide actual real-world knowledge to the people that they are instructing. So they get paid. I want to say if you're teaching like the larger conferences and things like that, some obscene amount per head. So
They're
per
all
body
adjunct
in
professors,
class,
basically.
it is ridiculous what they're getting paid. But it's worth it because it's taking time away from their job, their wife, their kids, their husband, their whatever, their spouse, to go and do these. And it's worth it because if they weren't getting paid that much, why would they take all that time away? Usually once, twice, three times, several times a year to be gone for a week or two because they also do them during conferences. So they'll run like a SANS conference where you get to like go to different things, and then the following week is a boot camp, and so you're basically gone for 2 weeks just to do this, and it could be anywhere from monthly to quarterly, depending on how often they want to do it. But the instructors are top tier; they're top notch, and so they're worth the money. And that's why I say businesses need to invest in you. You should not be investing in that. It's one thing like Full Stack
100%.
Academy, where it might be 15, 20 grand, but you're getting a lot more knowledge out of it, and it's not as niche down. It's more foundational or fundamental. SANS is niche down. These certifications, with the exception of your very first one, so your GSEC, which is basically Security Plus on crack, and GCED, which is Enterprise Defense, still kind of a basic level certification. I don't think those ones should be as pricey, but they are. I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I'd say all day. If your company will pay for SANS or if you can get their scholarship program, do it all day. Some of the best instruction you're going to get. I've literally sat there and had full blown. I have never reversed engineered anything in my life, and I passed my GREM by taking their course and actually learning from them and actually having conversations with the instructor. Yosef, depends on where you live, brother. He wants to know what the average starting salary is.
Depends on what you do too.
Yeah. Misha,
If you live
in
in
the TLDR, oh my God, there are so many certs. Yeah, there are more certs than I could ever mention on stream. It might take me months to go through all of them. But as far as certifications go, find what you want to do. Do your research first.
a lot of them are
Bill.
defunct now too, unfortunately.
Yeah.
When I got out of boot camp, I found an amazing graphic that had basically security engineering, offensive operation, and I got it pulled up on my other screen. Security engineering, offensive operations, defensive operations, security analysis, security architecture, and sec management. And then basically a flow graph as to which certs cover which domains or where they overflow.
Yeah.
And if you're taking that as gospel, you're kind of doing it the wrong way. The best thing to go for up front is your Security Plus. That's, again, the mile wide and an inch deep certification that covers everything. Once you land your first role, regardless of whether you're a SOC analyst, a GRC analyst, or anything in between, take the knowledge you get from that first job, lean into it so you have a niche, and the rest will come.
I heard boot camps or money grabs not worth paying for it. What do you think now, Bill? And how long ago did you go to boot camp? And how long have you been GRC?
So
I'll leave that up there because that's a lot to digest.
So my perspective of boot camp, I did not have. I mean, outside of a general security mindset, because I'm a paranoid individual as it is, it needed to be built upon. It needed to be honed. Some people don't have a security mindset. That's why you've got MSPs out there. You've got assessors to go and tell organizations you're doing it wrong. Unless you're trying to broadcast how weak your security posture is, that's why there's security professionals out there doing audits, in some ways doing IT as well as cybersecurity for organizations, because unfortunately bigwigs like to think that the two disciplines are interchangeable or one and the same, and they're not. You really got to be careful in that regard. So boot camps helped me hone my security mindset, get me to the point where I had an idea of what I wanted to do within the space, and then get me the skills I needed in order to pass my entry-level certification in Sec Plus.
Yeah.
Some of them, like for instance, Full Stack at the time, part of the reason I went with them was the after boot camp support. I had access to a wonderful career success coach that was part of the full stack team at the time, helped me with everything from preparing for interviews, how to negotiate salary, to even critiquing my resume and knowing how to job search. That in and of itself, if you know how much career success coaches cost, I dare you guys to go and look up some right now and see how much those sessions are a piece. $15,000 when I have access to that
Oh,
window.
some people are charging a ridiculous amount. And look, again, this comes down to, though, like everything, you have to be able to invest in yourself. But is the juice worth the squeeze, right? If you're going to go to, say, college and get a degree in basket weaving, is that going to pay off $80,000, $100,000 in student loans? Not in your lifetime.
Nope.
Not in my lifetime. So is the juice worth the squeeze? No.
Nope. So mine was worth it.
Exactly.
And persistence was key in that regard, because you had to sign up for her services through Calendly or any other calendar platform. People who didn't get a job from that boot camp afterwards didn't utilize her services or glean enough from it. I'll tell you right now, because she helped a lot in that regard. The other good thing about the after support was they had also partnershiped. I wasn't able to benefit from it because, like I said, my first attempt at Sec Plus, I was this close to passing. I didn't. But Full Stack also had a partnership with CompTIA at the time, to where when you finished boot camp, you got a voucher to take the Sec Plus, and if you passed, it got reimbursed to you.
Yeah.
So again, another incentive. That after boot camp support is really what you're looking for. I'm not sure what they're at now and what they're doing. I know that Full Stack has gotten bought out since to another learning organization. But just do your research on these things. If it doesn't seem good enough and you're not going to take advantage of, again, asking the hard questions, being proactive, being on top of learning even after, just to help nail things down and learn the knowledge, it's not going to be worth your money.
Yeah.
And then as far as how long it took me, it was brutal, man. Even for someone as thorough as me, I had a process that I had learned from the woman that was the career success coach at Full Stack. I go crazy with how I keep track of the jobs that I post. I usually put the name, I put where it's at, if it's hybrid, what the position name is, the site or platform that I applied to it on, and then if it didn't give a salary, I look up what the salary is in that area, generally speaking. That way, if they call me back or a recruiter calls me and says, hey, we want you for an interview, I can say, okay, it's this position, this area, and I can project this amount of pay based off of what everyone else is in the area. That's a good step in the right direction. As far as how long it took me, mind you, I leaned on the connections that I made heavily from networking. All you need is one. All it takes is one. The gentleman that I befriended in my boot camp program, I studied Sec Plus with him. We both passed our exams around the same time. He happened to get a job first, being ex-military and being able to hold security clearance, got in on the ground floor. But I kept in contact with him, and he was able to get me in front of his boss, and I was able to sell myself the rest of the way.
Well, and again, and so it's funny, Misha says it here, but networking is key. Having those contacts and selling yourself. Many people can't afford boot camps, right? They can't. They may want to invest every dime in themselves, like you were able to do, right? You were able to take out that loan and be able to do it, but many people can't. Shitty credit. The economy sucks. We're in a recession, heading towards the freaking next Great Depression. Nobody can afford food. There's so many things holding people back right now that are trying to make that transition. YouTube is free. If you got an internet connection, YouTube is free.
The knowledge is there, but you have to kind of go through it with a fine-tooth comb, to be honest with you. And if it wasn't for me networking And going through LinkedIn, going on YouTube, looking up specific keywords, I would have never found the likes of Pete Zerger, Jason Dion, Professor Messer. Another good one, since we're reaching the 10-minute mark, Black Hills Information Security.
Black Hills InfoSec is awesome.
I
was on their Discord. I keep joining and leaving because
it's a lot. They're constantly blowing up over there. But they have a pay what you can business model to learn.
And everything. TCM does that too on occasion. So that's who it was. That's the Cyber Mentors security program, TCM. TCM Security, they will do on occasion pay what you can. And sometimes Heath Adams will actually just be like, you know what? I'm giving away these courses for free right now. Like, I'm doing a giveaway. So get in on the giveaway and I'll give them away. And then you got people like myself and InfoSec Pat and KevTech and other people that will buy vouchers to give you courses. It happens. You just got to watch the platforms and hope that you catch it one time when we're doing giveaways.
Got to have your ear to the ground for it, people, because it's gone in an instant. And then the latter part of that question was how much I was making. It depends. If you're in one of the metropolitan areas like New York, DC, or out in California, the pay is going to be anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 more salary for an entry-level position because of the cost of living over in those areas. What I was making, again, that was with the prospect of me relocating from Connecticut, where I am now, down to DC.
Yeah. So was it solely the ransomware that made you get into cybersecurity, or was there was that just kind of what pushed you over the edge?
Having experienced the ransomware not once but twice was certainly the catalyst for it. But I mean, let's be frank. Anybody who's in this chat right now and watches this channel and is any inkling passionate about cyber has probably been in front of a computer more often than not. I happen to be one of those people. I would build my own rigs. I'm a nerd. I play games.
We're nerds? Never. I do not have an entire Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, hackers poster. It doesn't exist. Never.
So that Ask Mr. Robot, all that stuff, watching it on Netflix, that was my passion. I just took it, ran with it.
Misha, I love you. Thanks for the $5 super chat. Yes, network research and network again. Most definitely. Next on the dog hit. And damn, man, a lot of stuff. All right. So, Misha, for those who may be newer here, because we do have some new people in chat today, and probably new people are going to be watching because you're never on the table before, so we're hitting some of your network. For those who may be new here, what's the best free things, IC Squared, etc., that you recommend for beginners to go through? Ooh.
Is this aimed more towards me or Derek?
I'm looking at all right, so you just went through a boot camp recently, right? Within the past, let's say year and a half. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure you had a lot of free resources going into that. Now, it's been years since I've actually had to sit down and gauge all of this. I know some, but you may know others. What was besides those three, for foundations? So Professor Messer, Jason Dion, and Pete Zergler. Are there any other free resources out there that you recommend?
I mean, those gentlemen are kind of the premier. Gerald Logger, like I said, Black Hills Information Security, when they have their free courses. But don't just take these, again, to become a paper tiger. Try to have some method behind the madness of these certifications. See what you want to lean into. If you want to be a GRC professional, look up NIST. Look up, 800-171, 853. Look up ISO 27100. All those things, and you get a feel for it. There's plenty of people that speak to it. Same thing with, if you want a pen test, do Hack the Box. If you want to do Blue Team, do Blue Team Online. Or Over the Wire is another one.
Over the Wire is huge. I love that for Linux because I can still to this day go back to it and play. I think it's Bandit.
Yep.
the Linux intro, and I'll have forgotten things, and so I have to go all the way back through the entire program again. But it's a great refresher on how to do different Linux commands.
And they usually gamify it in the sense that there are a bunch of CTFs that capture the flags as far as these rooms and obstacles are. So it adds a fun aspect to it to where you're not just banging your head against the wall trying to figure this stuff out. Um, but yeah, those free resources in particular. I'm sure if you follow Derek or you follow me on LinkedIn, I'll try to post more on
Which, by
those
the way,
going.
if you're looking to connect with me or Bill, our LinkedIn's and all the ways you can connect with us are down in the description below. So make sure you check that out. That is going to be there in perpetuity until YouTube decides to just go away or kick off me or whatever. We'll see. One of those things might eventually happen. So since we have 5 minutes left and we can go a little bit past, everybody knows I will run the show as long as I need to. What do you wish a cybersecurity instructor did for you in addition to instruction? Whether it's building an online portfolio, hands-on lab, helping with your resume, like you talked about, you did have someone kind of help you with that, getting out of that boot camp, employer networking and job hunting. Is there anything else that you wish they did to kind of help prepare you for the workforce?
It's hard to say because of the fact that unless they preach having the ability to do this, do that, help you with resume, help you with finding a job, or that they have all these connections, a lot of that's posturing. If you were to go to, a job fair after boot camp that they maybe put together, especially since at the time full stack cybersecurity program was still so new, it's people, companies and alumni alike are just playing the field, seeing what's out there, and maybe you pick the cream of the crop and give them your business card, tell them to give you a call so you get in front of an interview that way. It is what you make it with these boot camps. You have to, like I said, ask the hard questions, be persistent, don't be afraid to look like a dummy. You're all there to learn. And with me, I was ponying up the money up front. Didn't have anybody to help me. It was all out of pocket. So I needed to make it what I wanted and take from it what I could. Thankfully, the team of instructors that I had went above and beyond. Some of them would stay after with me, and a lot of them gave me pretty valuable insight as to what to expect when I got out, if I was diligent.
Yeah. For me, so I look at things. I went to now that they're now Pittsburgh Technical Academy or something like that. I forget what they're called. But back when I went through and got my Microsoft, shit, Misha, I was saying Space Tacos talks up Gerald. All right, that's what the hymn was. Damn it! Don't do that to me. I love Space Tacos. You know that. She's amazing. She just talks up Gerald all the time like I do. So hush. But
it's a hell of a love
Misha,
triangle.
it's good to have you back in chat. I love seeing you here. It's good to have you digging in again. She's trying to go from pharmacy tech over to cyber. So Misha, one of these days we will get you there. It'll happen. We'll find a way. But
I'll try to help where I can too.
Right?
Hit me up. Find me on LinkedIn, guys.
Yep. Misha, make sure you connect with Bill also. Yosef, everybody hit that LinkedIn connection in the description of the video. Make sure you connect with him and me as well if you're not already connected. About that, Wallace here. What's going on, brother? How you doing? He was on last week, and I was on his show like 2 weeks before.
Awesome.
But, I look at it as when I went to PTI, I took advantage of none of the resources. None of them. Because I basically took those courses. I got several Microsoft certifications in my CCNA. And then went and figured I got my 4-year degree. I'll be all right because I was getting my degree through CalU. It only needed my CCNA to complete that course. But then apparently I can get into a whole story about how I had a degree for a year and didn't know it. But by the time that came around, I already had kids. Got married in 2010 and was like, I need a job. And no one, was hiring because I didn't know I had a degree, so I couldn't put a degree on there. That's legitimately how I ended up going active duty military. I was already in the Guard for 6.5 years. And then it just came to crunch time where I was like, I got to be able to support my family. I was like, Air Force won't take me prior service. What's the Army doing? And ended up in the Army until they retired me.
Desperate times call for desperate measures, my friend.
I mean, hey, I can't complain. I mean, they may have broke me because I am broken, but at least I got 4 SAN certifications and a CEH, a CPT, and a few other CCNA certifications out of it. Like, literally, I abused the shit out of their systems. They were like, hey, can you send me here? Yeah, we got you. Cool. Hey, this certification's expired. Can you send me here? Yeah, we got you. All right, cool.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect. That's what you got to do,
look,
guys.
if you're going to pay for it, I'm going. Like, I'm just going to go to all the training I can freaking go to that's IT and cybersecurity related. That's what I'm going to do.
Some of it's got to stick.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, so Graham, never did it. Did SANS. Got my certification. This is what I mean when I say you can learn from anybody and why networking is important. So not only did that instructor help me pass my reverse engineering malware cert, so did a 17-year-old. Now, at the time, I was in my 30s, and I was like, I should be able to go on Hack the Box now. I just went through this great SANS course and be able to do everything. No. I got on there, and I'm working with some people in Discord, and this dude was like helping step me through like one of these reverse engineering things. And at the end of it, I was like, man, you are intelligent. You are smart as shit. I was like, how old are you? And he was like 17. Bullshit. I was like,
these kids nowadays
knew assembly in his sleep. I was like, dude.
These parents got to reel their kids in.
Your drive at that age. At that age, my drive was football and anything other than, a career.
Yeah.
It was graduate high school and go in the military. That's where I was at that point.
I mean, look at me. From the time I was 18, I was in grocery, produce, retail, on the ground level of society. And now I'm doing what I can to, take care of my wife, and I got a kid on the way. Desperate times call for desperate measures,
Yeah.
Yosef,
I had several different jobs in the military. They were all IT and or cybersecurity related. I did help desk sysadmin, network administration, and then got into cybersecurity as I was leaving the Air National Guard. In the Army, I did Army television, so I did broadcast engineering and things like that. But due to where I was stationed, I did mostly IT, networking, system admin, that type of stuff. And then when I retired, I was in cybersecurity. So I got all my SAN certifications. But saying that, we are over the top of the hour. Bill, prior to signing off, as always, I always let people get their final words in. Any advice you have that you feel you may have missed or just want to elaborate on or accentuate, please give your final words to help people get in the career field, and even people that are already in that want to kind of grow.
Nose to the grindstone, guys. Don't be afraid to take the leap. It's for a lot of us out there that are trying to break in or have yet to. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of hard work. Don't give up. All it takes is one connection that you make in order to breach that gap, and the rest will fall into place. If you have any questions, like I said, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Derek. Appreciate you having me on the platform, Derek. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, definitely. We'll get you back on. Which, by the way, if you want to come on the show, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Discord, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of it's there. Just shoot me a message if you want to come on. I'm more than welcome to have anybody on, especially if you're trying to break in and want to get your name out there. Keep in mind, if you want to be seen, if you want to be heard, if you want people on this show to be seen and heard and support them, there's 2 ways to do it. The first is like, comment, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff, to this show on your social media accounts. The other way is to actually support the channel, because the more you support it, the more I have time, the more I have the ability to pay for advertisements and things like that to get people heard. Right now, working full time and do this on the side once a week. So you get what you get out of me. It's on you. So wife, 5 kids, and full-time job. This is kind of a side project for me. But hey, I love you all. You're all my warriors and you're all my family. And I will see you all next week with another amazing episode of Security Happy Hour.